Hello, YouTube. I want to provide some feedback on what government functions like. This matters a great deal because it does not matter whom you're writing to if you write to them enough about what your concerns are, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. They will eventually, rather than addressing your concerns, send law enforcement or other authorities to your home to conduct wellness checks and mental health checks rather than providing you the assistance that you're seeking. They won't reply via letter or email to you and say, hey, this is what you can get to address your concerns. This is how you can address these concerns. We live in an age where capitalism has so corrupted the functions of government that they genuinely do not give a shit at all about you, about your loved ones, even about children. They don't care. They don't. They have their value system, and their value system says that if you don't have money, you're a nuisance. So, if anybody is thinking of writing to government to get a concern addressed, what I would recommend is you get a third-party address and you use that address in order to write about your concerns. You might even consider writing under a pen name for safety reasons so that you can express your views without concern for reprisals. What I've found is that a lot of people that are on the internet will try to tell their stories through pen names because it is not safe for them to tell the truth about what has happened or what is happening in the United States using their real name. And when you advocate for changes publicly using your real name, there are people who exist within government who will try to hurt you. They will try to target you for reprisals to be investigated. Sorry, it's early. But that can be very traumatic for a lot of people. Don't think that you can trust them or rely on them, because you can't, unfortunately. Some of them understand, but it's mostly people who have a firm grasp on the impacts of living under such a system, under capitalism, and dealing with trauma and how the system is fundamentally broken. Law enforcement does not exist to meet mental health needs, and none of the other authorities within government structure exist to meet mental health needs. People who have been traumatized severely by events that have taken place are not assisted by law enforcement or other authorities. You are re-traumatizing that person. What they do is they'll put people on a 72-hour mental health hold. You say, hey, this person's having an anxiety attack. This person is really upset. Like, I don't know what to do for this person. something bad has happened to this person. If you're a crime victim or something horrible has happened to you and you need anxiety medication or antidepressants or anything like that, they will simply throw you in a hole somewhere for several days, sometimes up to 2 weeks, and forget about you. And you'll get antidepressants, sometimes anxiety medication while you're hospitalized. And then they won't give a shit what happens to you after you get out. You'll get like a week's worth of medication after all that time. Something terrible has happened to you and you need mental health support. And that's with insurance. They just don't give a fuck about you. It doesn't matter who you're writing to. It doesn't matter which party they're with. Biden sucked and Trump sucks even worse. You know, that's what I've got to tell you. And I have literally met people who were on the street that were dying in my travels, and they could not get assistance of any kind. And nobody cares what happens to these people. No one. You could have horrible things happen to you, and they do not care. If you tell your story, if you're sick, if you've been a victim of human trafficking, if you've been a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault, they do not care. Like individuals care on the street. You know, people you meet. You might meet some police or social workers that care. But a social worker is far more likely to try to separate you and your family from one another than to provide you any meaningful assistance, especially if you have any children. I have learned so much about how the system works. When my spouse was sick, when she was alive, they would not provide her any meaningful help, even though she was suicidal. They wouldn't keep her in a hospital, even though he had insurance. And there were several suicide attempts before she successfully killed herself because she was traumatized. I had to take her to an outpatient psychiatrist, and it took months to get the appointment. And later on, I found out that he was sleeping with her in his office. That was how she was getting her prescription medication filled. She was having to have sex with her doctor. That is where mental health is in this country. I went to that same doctor to see what kind of service that I would get as a prospective patient, and it wasn't the same. I'll just put it that way. You can't get adequate treatment. These doctors are so sexist. That was after she died. The system is so broken in this country. Every day it makes me think. It's depressing to see the state of things. It's only like this in America. Only in America. Be very careful who you seek help from. And don't tell government authorities your business, because they're more likely to throw you under a bus or a train than they are to actually help with anything. I want you to consider how many millions of people are on the street. There's 4.5 million homeless children in this country, and there's I don't know how many millions of homeless adults just in Los Angeles alone. It's 800,000. In Chicago, it's about 180,000 that they know of. When things are that bad, you know that the system really doesn't give a shit about people. So you should never look to them for assistance because it's not going to happen.